Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Lynch Paint, where I, Lynch, will be showing you all how to paint the Raven Guard for your Horus Heresy armies. I do apologise, it is a little bit late on a Sunday, but you know, just stuff happens, life and that kind of thing, but hey, it's out, it's Sunday, still made my quota, so hope you all enjoy. Before we get into all the usual stuff, there's links, there's stuff that you can click that makes me happy, like the like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, do all that usual stuff. It makes me really happy. And yeah, with all that stuff out of the way with, let us grab our paints and paintbrushes and let's stealthily dive into this video. Ooh. However, before we get started, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are all the ones I've used in this video today, alongside which we're going to need a nice little fluffy brush, a medium-sized basing brush, and of course, our good old teeny weeny teeny tiny brush for all of our teeny tiny places. So we're going to start out with a black acrylic primer going all over our miniature. Now I know that I am using a Mark III Marine here, and of course the Raven Guard tend to use the Mark IVs and the sleeker armor ones, but this is just the only model that I had kind of kicking around, lying around, so it's going to be this. Anyway, once that's dried, we're going to cheat a little bit and we're going to use this Corvus Black and use a nice fluffy dry brush. Now you could use a wet blending method and kind of go over the armor panels and that sort of thing that way, but because you guys are going to be having many tens of these miniatures, you know what I mean, many squads of these guys, you want to try and get them done and on the table as quickly as you can. So that's why this little series is here. We're going to try and figure out the best ways to paint lots of Marines in a very lovely way of doing it, rather than just slapping on a load of colour and you feeling a little bit embarrassed when you rock up to the table with something that's kind of like not quite as good. So I'm going to start out with this, just all over, giving it a nice rough dry brush. And then once we're done, we're then going to move on to a lighter grey. Alright, once we're done with the dry brush, I'm going to kick it up a gear and grab some of the Storm Vermin Fur, or just generally a lighter grey that you have lying around. It doesn't necessarily have to be Storm Vermin Fur, but I quite like it because there is a slight warmth sort of element to it. So it's not like a cold grey, it's more of a warm grey. That just kind of comes from my more artistic sort of background there about talking about sort of warm and cold colours. But anyway, I'm going to start out with a little bit because it's just far easier to add more of the light grey if it's too dark or not. Oh, hit the camera. If it's too dark or if it's not very noticeable, than it is to add too much of a light grey and then go, oh crap, that's far too much, and then you're going to have to spend a lot of time going back over it. So the trick is just to add in a little bit at a time. And of course, because the Raven Guard is primarily black, very kind of what's the word? I don't know. But anyway, we're not going to go too light with it. So just a little bit here and there where the light source is going to be really reflecting. So kind of on the back of this leg here, obviously his shoulder pads and top of his head. Just a little bit here and there. Right, so then we're going to just round it all off by using pure Storm Vermin Fur / any kind of mid-tone grey that you have. I'm just going to very lightly dry brush, and as we do, it's going to create a bit of a highlight as well. So it's an easy way, rather than having to kind of go carefully with a teeny tiny brush all over the armour and do your highlighting things, in which if you would rather prefer, you can do that. It is entirely up to you, but if I can find a quicker method of doing it, then of course I'm going to do it. So after doing all the dry brushing, it's looking pretty darn good. Now, of course, if you like the sort of the more intense sort of contrasting with the really kind of light highlighting, then of course you can go ahead and just make it a little bit more bolder if you wanted to, but I'm really quite happy with how it's turned out thus far. So I'm going to move over onto using some Iron Warriors. So some nice, so like bog gunmetal style of pink. Going to want to grab a medium-sized brush, and we're going to go over the all the metallic areas. So I had a little look as well, just to refreshen my memory just a little bit about what kind of trims they have on the shoulder pads, and it's generally just silver, so it's just black and silver, kind of similar to the Iron Hands a little bit actually, but it seems like in the 30k era, sorry 40k era, that's when they get their red trim. But of course, you know, depending on what sort of company that you're going to be basing your Raven Guard from, you could paint them in sort of white trim or red or just silver. It's entirely up to you at the end of the day, but this is just going to be how I'm going to show you today. So once we're done with our Iron Warrior Silver, we're then going to move over to using some Runefang Steel. Now, I couldn't quite decide whether to use this or some of the Grey Knight Steel, which is a lighter silver, and it has like this kind of blue hue to it, but I was going to run with this, see how it goes. I was tempted as well just to do some of the trim in the silver, but I kind of figured that, you know, the Raven Guard, they want to be stealthy, so they probably don't want much in the way of sort of bling and extra kind of shiny trims and bits and pieces. So I'm just going to leave it for now, but if you got like a sergeant or a captain or what have you, then yeah, definitely go ahead, do the trims in some nice kind of silvers or maybe a little bit of gold, and you can even do some of the trim as well in a bit of a red, just to kind of show a little bit of extra something. Alrighty then, boys and girls, I don't know really what to tell you, but we're almost there, pretty much. Just got to do the eye lenses, and then freehand the logo on the side. Come to think of it, I haven't even painted the teeth on the chainsword. Wow, I'm bad at this. Alright, crisis averted, we've got the chainsaw teeth. So, we're going to move on to doing the eye lenses, and had a little double check, just because that you know, some legions have different kind of colors. I thought it was a blue, but it's not, it's a red. So I'm gonna have a lovely red, and then we're also going to need our lovely black. So just gonna move them to that side. We're also going to need a little bit of orange. So what I'm going to do is we're going to grab a little brush here, and to be honest, the base of it is actually quite nice and dark. I'm just going to fill it in just while we're here, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to go in like that with the black, just to maximize the contrast, and then we're going to take a little bit of red. I'm going to make up a nice dark-ish red, about a 50-50 mix. I'm just going to just wet my brush just a little bit, just help with the flow. And then we're going to look to paint about 2/3 of the lens in the dark red, and then we'll paint the first third in pure Mephiston red, and then at the very front middle we're going to add in a little bit of orange, just to add a little bit more sort of colour to make it brighter, because if you add in white into red you're going to get pink, and I don't think you really want that. And then at the very back of the lens we will add in just a teeny tiny dot of white, just to show a bit of a reflected effect. Alrighty, so now we are moving on to doing the logo. Now, as you probably saw in the sped up footage there, that I did unfortunately drop my model and the chainsaw broke off, but luckily crisis has been averted and he's now fully attached. So got a selection of paints here. I'm just going to load up the logo. Sorry for any little camera wobbling there. Right. So I got my teeny weeny teeny tiny brush for all of my teeny tiny places. I'm going to start out with a grey, and then I'm just going to fade in the white into it, just for a little bit of something. I have already done one of these before, but with the Primaris Marine, so you can always check that out as well afterwards, even in case you're curious or just wanted to kind of compare the two. But without further ado, let's dive in. And so here we come to the end of the video, and this is how I went about painting the Raven Guard for your Horus Heresy armies. Now, I did struggle quite a bit with the freehand, with the logo there. I realised that the neck and the head were far too low, but I managed to kind of just course correct a little bit, bring the head up, and do you know what? It turned out better than what it would have done. And I always encourage everybody just to give freehanding a go. However, Raven Guard, now that I've painted them twice, I can confirm they're a pain in the ass to do. So just get transfer sheets, get the fancy raised shoulder pads if you can. But definitely, you know, practice on something like a Rhino or a Land Raider, something that's big, and you can get the detail in before you go down to shoulder pad size. But again, you know, not to turn people away or to, you know, turn people off it, but definitely give freehanding a go. It is a lot of fun. It just depends on what you're painting. But Raven Guard, they're quite advanced, I must say. And yeah, so let us round the video off with just thanking everybody, you know, to tuning in. I do apologise, it is a little bit late on a Sunday that I'm posting this out, but it is what it is, you know. If you enjoy the video, then, you know, show your appreciation with a like, comment, subscribe down below. It just takes a few minutes of your time and it means the absolute world to me. So thank you ever so much, everyone that does it. I've got links for Wayland Games if you want to pick up some minis at a discount. I've got a free Discord server as well. I have a link to my Instagram, and I think down there I've got a link to a coffee page, but I haven't been on it in a long time. But if you want to show some support and just, you know, chuck me a couple of quid, you can either do you could just easily do it with a super thanks with the button down below. I think that'd be just quicker rather than having to open up a link to coffee and doing it that way. So click all the stuff. It makes me happy, lets me know that what I'm doing is stuff that you enjoy, just so I can carry on. I will be kind of doing returning back to bat reps at some point soon as well. Just got to finish editing quite a bit of a long one. And it will be of a new sort of style, new sort of format of bat repping. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's reaction to it. And yeah, I'll be probably painting some other bits, like maybe it's like some Star Wars Legion, maybe some D&D stuff. If you have any suggestions of stuff that you want me to paint, let me know down in the comments as per usual. So thank you ever so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you all next time.